We have some breaking news to discuss today as the Toronto Blue Jays have made an interesting trade acquiring a pitcher from the Texas Rangers. We're going to break down the exact trade, who the Jays gave up, as well as discuss who they got back, because this pitcher could be looking to make an impact as soon as this year. So stay tuned for that in this episode, as well as a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. injury update. He was injured in today's game against the New York Yankees, and John Schneider came out and revealed what the injury is and gave a bit of an update on that. So stay tuned for all that. But before we do, we are proud to announce that this video is sponsored by Rentals.ca, who are proud supporters of Team Canada as they head into the Olympics. And while they've been supporting our national team defend their home court, again, heading into the Olympics, they've also been helping thousands of Canadians find their home floor all across the country, whether that's condos, houses, apartments, and whether you're in Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, Calgary, Halifax, Mississauga, Edmonton, Victoria, all these places, St. John's where I'm from, whether you want a condo, apartment, anything you want from coast to coast, Rentals.ca has a ton of options to help you find the perfect place and price for you, and their website is super clean. That is the best part. It's easy to use. You can pinpoint exactly on the map where you want to go, and you can see the apartment and make your decision based on that. So thank you to Rentals.ca. Find your home court with Rentals.ca. And shout out to them. They've been huge supporters of the channel over the past a while now. So check them out in the pinned comment and the description as well. And thank you to Rentals.ca for sponsoring this video. But let's get into the news that we have today. The Toronto Blue Jays made a very interesting trade. They've acquired a pitcher. Now, I'll preface it by saying this is not a blockbuster move by any sort, but we know that heading into the season, AAA depth, it was looking pretty good. You think of guys like Wes Parsons, Paolo Espino, and a lot of these guys, Mitch White even, a lot of them have departed from the Toronto Blue Jays, and now the Jays have started to replenish some of that system. And we saw they traded for Oakland A's former starting pitcher a couple weeks ago, and a lot of these guys, even José Berríos, who they traded for, I believe, a week ago, where they signed, even pitched in today's game. So a lot of these guys are making impacts, and they dropped a trade. And let's just dive right into it. So you can see this here. Blue Jays acquire righty Rodriguez in a trade with the Rangers. So the Toronto Blue Jays have acquired right-hander Yerry Rodriguez, not to be mistaken with Yariel, but Yerry Rodriguez in exchange for right-hander Josh Morales. It was announced Sunday, and Rodriguez is being assigned to AAA Buffalo following the move. The 26-year-old has appeared in 12 games so far with Texas, and he is a bit rough at the major league levels. He does strike out. He struck out 12 and 17 innings, so nothing too crazy. But who the Jays gave up, which was Joshua Morales, was drafted by the Blue Jays in the 10th round of last year's draft and was doing okay in single A with a 1-4 record with a 4.03 ERA. So a lot to dissect here. Again, it's not a major move by any sort of the imagination, but the Jays are getting a guy in exchange for their draft pick last year who, quite frankly, what this move is, they're giving up a guy who they drafted in the 10th round who is not close to the MLB as he's currently pitching in single A, for a guy who can give them immediate AAA depth and a guy who could potentially be called up bearing any more injuries. And he was playing with the big league club for the Texas Rangers, who are trying to win after they won the World Series last year. They're trying to win this year. But ultimately, it's going to be very interesting to see what his actual impact is on the team, because when you go into it, like, this trade on the surface doesn't seem like a big deal, and it really is not a massive deal, but the Jays need to replenish some of their AAA depth because, quite frankly, they have been lacking that. We have guys getting called up that, José Berríos was a guy they signed. Like, you're at the point now where you're not developing AAA arms, the Blue Jays aren't, and having them called up and then being inserted into the lineup. They are trading for guys. They're signing guys, and then they're just bringing them right in, which is why I'm saying that, again, Yerry Rodriguez could be a guy who gets called up very soon, even though for now he's going to be with the Buffalo Bisons in AAA. And you look at his stats, he has a lot of different experience since 2016. He's an older guy. Again, they traded a single A prospect who's nowhere near MLB level already in exchange for a guy who did pitch for the Texas Rangers this year in 12 games, a 6.88 ERA, really not good, and he hasn't been great the past few years. Again, AAA last year at 6 ERA, so he hasn't been great since 2021 in his season in AA. But again, it's a guy who can go right into the AAA lineup. And do I like the trade? Not necessarily, because I do think there is something there with Josh Morales. Like, there's a chance that he develops into a decent big league arm. Obviously, they drafted him in the 10th round. There was a reason they drafted him, albeit it's late. He is struggling with the single A Vancouver Canadians, but he's super young. He's not even necessarily super young. He's 24-year-old versus 26-year-old, but the experience difference at this point of their careers is vastly different, as Morales is just in single A, whereas Yerry Rodriguez has pitched for a while, 26 years old. He's been pitching since he was 18, way back with the Texas affiliation, where he put up a decent stat line. So nothing too crazy, nothing too exciting regarding this trade, but it is interesting to note that don't be surprised if Yerry Rodriguez somehow gets called up, just like José Berríos did a few days ago, and just to make an impact on the team. So I wanted to break that down for you. And again, the guy we gave up interesting. You could see his name be brought up in the future, but overall, not a huge trade, but I wanted to keep you guys up to date on that. But what we're going to discuss now is obviously today the Jays got absolutely crushed by the New York Yankees. They lost by a lot of runs. The Jays are up and down. Season's been up and down all season long. Kevin Gosselin's been struggling. He's pitching to like a 4.5 ERA. He hasn't been himself. He hasn't been the Kevin Gosselin we know and love. And in today's game, which we'll break down a little bit, but I'm not going to focus on the game as much today as I am on the injury. We know Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Was hit in the right hand, smoked in the right hand, and nothing is broken, nothing is fractured after x-rays. And that is the best possible news if you're a Toronto Blue Jays fan, because over the past few games, the offense has really started to pick up behind Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and George Springer. I mean, Vladdy's doing incredible things, and even this is still a little bit scary. Obviously, there's no structural damage, so he won't be out a long period of time, but anything that disrupts the timing a little bit and just disrupts his ability to get into games at this point with how good he has been hitting is a little bit concerning. So that definitely isn't the best news that he was taking, he had to go for x-rays. But given the fact that he was going for x-rays, he should be good. Maybe they'll give him a rest day tomorrow and the day after and just see what kind of happens with that. But the big news here is that nothing is broken and nothing is fractured. And in a game where the Jays lost and they're really trying to win games, like as we've seen Ross Atkins say a bunch of times, the Jays are just trying to win. They're doing everything they can to win. And to see Vladdy go down with an injury would have been detrimental to the team, because he has been carrying the Toronto Blue Jays. He is one of the only reasons, alongside George Springer, whose mental was 9 for 11 going into last game. He's going absolutely crazy. But obviously, George Springer hasn't been great the whole year. But Vladimir Guerrero Jr., on the other hand, has been going crazy the whole season, really, aside from that little bit. And he did very good. And again, touching on today's game a little bit, I mean, Vladdy was one of the only ones who got a hit. He obviously had to leave with his hit by pitch. Kevin Gosselin was rough. 7 earned runs and 4 1/3. Like, he's been very, very rough this season, which is unfortunate. It's not great, but the team is interesting right now. Like, you see them making trades and all these trades for these depth moves. Jose Cuas was literally traded for, and he's been doing okay, but he hasn't been doing great. He gave up 2 runs in his first outing as a Blue Jay, giving up 2 earned runs in the homer. But I think ultimately the Jays' current standpoint is they can't afford for anyone else to get hurt. Their entire bullpen's hurt. Jordan Romano is going to be out for a very long time. Another update on him: he suffered from right forearm discomfort. It doesn't seem like there's anything structural there. He's going to be going to see the Tommy John doctor, I do believe, and just to see what's happening with that. But you have Jordan Romano, who is injured. You have all these guys. The Jays cannot afford any more injuries if they want to make a push towards the playoffs, which is super far away right now. They're 7.5 games back as of the time of recording. And it's good news that Vladdy's not hurt, but the Jays really have to pick it up, because if they don't pick it up very soon, it might be too late for the Toronto Blue Jays, and which is very scary, because this is a team that hit rock bottom a couple weeks ago, kind of been, like, in theory, it seems like they've been playing a lot better, but they really haven't been record-wise, as they're still like 3-7 in their last 10. But that'll wrap it up. Let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on the trade, what your thoughts are on all of that. And again, thank you to Rentals.ca for sponsoring this video. We'll see you guys very soon.